So ordered. If we could please rise for the pledge of allegiance. Stallion.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic.
Much. Please silence your electronic devices as needed. If there's anybody here tonight, for your government class to attend a meeting, your sheet can be filled out at the end of the meeting by any of the board members. My name is Timothy Crumley. I'm the president of the school board. I'm the guy running the meeting. That's another line on your sheet. So that takes place at the end of the meeting. Motion to move the agenda to the table, made by Mr. Groden, seconded by Mrs. Holmes. Any discussion? All in favor? So ordered. Dr. Evans, any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda?
There are none at this time, Mr. President.
Thank you so much, Dr. Evans. Motion to adopt the agenda as is. Motion by Mr. Groden, seconded by Ms. Greco. Any discussion? All in favor? So ordered. Approval of draft minutes, November 2nd, 2023. Motion by Ms. Jersey, seconded by Ms. Holmes. Any discussion? All in favor? So ordered. Student board member update. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. How are you, Mr. Conley?
Lovely. What do you got for us?
Okay, so Dia Patel and Eddie Salinas made states for cross country. Eddie got 35th and Dia got 78th. They were both out of 115, so that is very impressive. Winter sports are underway. We have a preseason tournament for boys varsity basketball, and that's going to be on Tuesday, November 22nd. Last Friday, we had our Veterans Assembly, which we have every year, and this has been such a successful assembly. I heard feedback from almost every teacher of mine. We had great student speakers. It was an amazing assembly. It was both engaging and just everyone had a really good time. We have parent-teacher conferences both today and tomorrow night. Junior prom is set for Saturday in the cafeteria, and it's the first one back to the fall since pre-COVID. We have the food drive coming up on November 21st, and the assembly is also going to be that day. I don't have much information other than that. It is prom week, so it has been really crazy, but we're very excited. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you so much for your report. We appreciate it. Moving forward, Mrs. Greco.
I'd like the motion that we adopt the consent agenda F1 to M2 as a group.
Thank you very much. Do I have a second to that? Ms. Holmes, any discussion? All in favor? So ordered. Thank you very much, Mrs. Greco. Moving on to information reports and discussion, board roundtable. Jen. Gotcha.
I never remember it. I don't have it.
All right, you'll remember by the time we go around.
Yeah,
Ashley,
I don't have anything to report. Thank you.
Victoria.
I have a lot to report for everybody else.
I'm genuine.
Yeah. I attended 2 graduation committee meetings. Things are coming together for graduation. I did a tour of the high school, Dr. Furman. The dance studio was absolutely beautiful with the new mirrors that were installed. It's gorgeous. Dr. Evans was there with us in the tour. Thank you. I went to 2 wrestling practices. We were up to, I thought it was 29, but I guess it's 31. And I do have a question. Do we just have one like huge wrestling mat for varsity and modified?
That I don't know. I'd have to look into it to see, how many we have. Are you talking like a practice mat or a meet mat?
I'm really a new wrestling person, so what do they practice on? There's only like one mat there that I saw, and I'm just curious if we have modified start at 11:20 and the 31 varsity that was tight fit on that mat already.
There's probably other mats for modified, I'm sure, but I can look into it with Mr. Jasper to get a count of how many mats we have.
Okay, and if we don't have enough, is that something we can order?
Yeah, if we didn't have enough, we could order more.
Okay, another question I have, is it possible that we could have our drive as we turn in, have some sort of like banners hanging off the poles that represent Monticello? Whether it be athletes or Monticello pride or something, because when I pull into another school, like my boys play contact sports, when I pull into another school district and I see that drive all lined up, I'm like, Lord, please no broken bones today, because you know that district means business. And it would be nice for our school to have some spirit like that. So when people pull in, they know that they're in our town now, they're in our house. So-
Monty Pride Way.
Right, like something like that needs to be done, because if we're gonna do a bond, hopefully for having new fields and stuff, it would be nice to show that pride. And I can't imagine it costing much.
No, but I think a lot of that was waiting for things like the tennis courts to be finalized and the 100, 200 will be renovated. But now we can get into other things like that to look at ways to recognize our students as they, are seniors or student athletes or whomever outside in our grounds.
I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be like student, like seniors, or anything like that, just some sort of like flags or banners that say Panther House or something like that. So I know like on the side of the building, we have what Jasper put up already. The what?
Senior soccer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we have that stuff. It's just something we have.
Yeah, and some sports do have their own temporary stuff they put up during meets and games, but we can look at more permanent stuff. I'll
Yeah,
talk to Dr. Furman and Mr. Jasper to see what they might.
It makes a difference, that whole feel. Okay. I went to the school board association dinner this past Monday. It was nice, met some people. I also attended the PTO meeting at St. John Street. I did that virtually. They plan on having a little shop for the children at Christmas time. And I did, I know a lot of times when we do these tours, we don't see the students in the schools. And for work, I had the opportunity to go to St. John Street, the pre-K school. And it was so nice to see all the little ones coming in and out of the classroom, see one of those little like jumpy things they have on the floors with the numbers and stuff, and seeing the teachers interact with them. It was just absolutely beautiful. And the pre-K is just so full of just brightness on the walls. It's a nice experience to see all that. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sorry, Mr. Groden.
Nothing to report, thanks.
Gallagher.
I honestly just tagged along with Ms. LaRusso on pretty much everything that she did, so nothing more further to add to that.
No report.
Prior to this meeting, we had the audit committee meeting, which we went over the second and third quarter internal audits. There were no issues found, and I attended both of the graduation committees.
Anything ground shaking coming out of graduation or not at this time? A little too early to speculate.
Well, it's really, well, it's not finalized yet.
Very well.
For the board's information, I did ask Dr. Furman to kind of compile a draft a memo to me that would be shared with the board once they made kind of a final recommendation for date, time, and so forth. I will call the board's attention. There is a graduation ceremonies policy, and it states the board will set the date and the administration will set all the other times and details and everything else. So, but hopefully, if not at the December 7th meeting, then a meeting in January, because we do want to make sure families are aware and they can plan accordingly.
Thank you very much. I attended a Rotary meeting with Dr. Evans, who was informing the Monticello Rotary of goings-ons around Monticello Central Schools. And then typical agenda settings, and also with Jersey prior to this meeting, attended the audit committee where there were really no findings found. So thank you everyone for all that you do. Moving on to director reports. Questions, comments, concerns regarding the director reports?
I do have a question. As far as Ms. McCoy's report goes, she said something about the school-based mental health clinic expansion grant. Do we have any update on that? And is that kind of like the TRI program?
You wanna talk about that?
So, I don't know, I'm not familiar with the TRI program, but this is a new grant that just came out and, we just found out today that it was approved. It's a combination grant. We're not the only school district. There's several school districts. And the plan is to offer mental health support services in some way in schools, using this grant funding.
So it's kind of, is it going to be like, I think it's an Astor Homes. It's gonna be like,
Yeah.
so it's kind of like the TRI program back in the day where we used to have in Sullivan County used to come into the schools.
I imagine on some levels, but it's not a public agency. Right, Astor Services, I think, is a private group.
Yeah, we're taking over for what used to be.
Yeah.
But okay, so it's going to be like that. And how are
I
students,
think, don't hold me to that, yeah.
how are students gonna be matched up with this program?
I don't know that we have all the details, so this was more of a quick RFP just to kind of get it moving. And so we were offered the opportunity to be a part of it, a participant. We're not, the initial grant writers, or we're not the only, we're just kind of a piece of a larger picture. So I don't think we have all the details yet.
So did every school in Sullivan County apply for this?
We were offered the opportunity to. I don't know if every school did.
Yeah, I don't know if every school did, and I don't know if every district was awarded. I don't, we got a brief email from Ms. McCoy today saying we won the grant. And I don't know if that means everybody in Sullivan County or just Monticello Central Schools.
That's it for now. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments regarding the director? Very much. Policy committee memo, Dr. Evans.
Yes, President Crumley, tonight the board will be doing first reads of 3 different policies. The first 2, one is 0100, the regulation for equal opportunity and non-discrimination. And the second one is policy 5040, or student religious expression. Both of those come to us from the New York State School Boards Association, based on their interpretation of the Bremerton case and religious expression in schools, and also protection against protection from discrimination. So the policy committee did read those several times over and gave them much consideration. So we are bringing those forward tonight for a first read, and also a first reading of a lead water testing policy. What this policy will enable us to do is clearly indicate water fixtures that are not suitable for drinking. And if we have this policy and we clearly post those, we're not required to test the lead in those fixtures. Still have to do lead testing annually, semi-annually. Annually for fixtures where students or staff may be consuming water, but these would be for other fixtures where staff and students should not be consuming that water anyway. Yeah, let's slop sink.
Any questions regarding policy? And our next policy meeting is January 4th. January 4th.
Yep.
We all good there? Thank you very much, Dr. Evans. Correspondence outcomes. So last meeting, we had public comment regarding New York State Tax Law 466A. Dr. Evans had a little bit of information for me. I thought this would be a good time to speak to it. You want to?
Sure. So this is an exemption for first responders. There's kind of, I believe, a law that's sunsetting and then a new law that's taking effect. I don't know of, I believe only maybe one school district in the county does it currently. First responders do receive an income tax credit, and what I heard from my colleague who does have this in their district, that most of the first responders in that school district opt for the income tax credit instead of the property tax credit on school taxes. So, I don't know where the board wants to go with it. It would ultimately mean if you were to grant this exemption for first responders, that money that's not collected in taxes from those properties would either be collected from other property owners, or we would reduce the budget by that amount. But either way, that money is not, it's not made whole to us by state or any other agency. So either we would collect that money elsewhere, or we would not levy that money at all.
And it was my understanding that it's either or, you can't accept this benefit.
Yeah, you can't.
And the other benefit.
Correct, you have to, yeah, you have
Either
to,
or.
you have to opt for the income tax credit or the property tax exemption. Can't do both.
So there is availability for first responders to have a reduction in their overall taxes already standing.
What's the percentage of the, tax reduction? You know?
It's capped at 10% of their assessed value. Can you give an example? Like $100,000 assessed value house, right?
Right.
How,
10% of that.
oh, it's times. Tax rate, that column would be. They'd be paying taxes on an assessed value of 90,000.
So probably between $20 to $30 a year, I'm guessing. $100,000.
I just wanted everybody to be aware since we did have public comment to that and we got back some information on that. Is everybody comfortable with that? All right. Moving on then to capital project update. Dr. Ev, oh,
Sorry.
go
Is
ahead.
that something we voted on?
What's that?
What you just mentioned? Is that something we vote on? That we grant that?
No,
Essentially, if we would vote on it, if we were gonna go ahead and offer that exemption, we would have to approve that as
there'd be
a
a public
board.
hearing.
There'd have to be a public hearing, there'd be a whole process to actually adopt that. If we feel comfortable that first responders already have a means to save money on their taxes and it's an either or issue and we're all comfortable with that, then we're not doing it, we're moving on. Capital project update. Dr. Evans.
Yes, President Crumley. So our architects have put out proposals, or have put out a proposal and they're reviewing responses to those from two contractors to continue the renovations in high schools room 111 and 113. This is where mold was detected under the floor. The scope of the work would entail a full removal of the old wooden floor, treatment to the original concrete slab, then installing or pouring a new concrete floor on top of that and leveling it up to be aligned to the hallway. Right now, because of the amount of time that's needed to post for, they suspect that there is asbestos under the wooden floor. We need to post 10 days prior to doing any abatement work. So what has to happen first is we need to award a contractor. Then they'll do some preliminary tests, and if they identify asbestos there, then we post for an abatement. Then we do the abatement, then they remodel the floor. So if that were to happen, we'd be looking at the winter recess to do that type of asbestos abatement, so there's not students and staff around. But that's the update that I have at this time, and I'll keep you posted as we move forward in that. And I'll be reaching out to our architect also to find out what they might be looking at for task 4 of the remaining capital project.
Questions regarding the capital project? Moving on to community events, quite a few articles from the Democrat in there, all a worthwhile read. Moving on to upcoming events listed in your agenda. One upcoming event, I kind of feel like I have to say it now, but Mr. Murphy's last day is Monday.
Right.
I think the Board of Education as a whole would like to wish Mr. Murphy the best in his retirement, and don't feel bad if you ever want to come back and you know, on a per diem rate.
And we will invite Mr. Murphy back when we recognize all retirees at the end of the school year.
Mrs. Leibold, any questions? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, on the upcoming events,
Yeah,
I think that it used to have like winter concert dates and the Nutcracker, and I find that very helpful. This is like, I sit here and I put all the stuff in my phone, my
Okay.
calendar, right? And now I have to go like rummage around and find it, and I appreciate your report, but because this calendar is like 2-3 months out, it's easier for me that stuff to go on this calendar. It would be very helpful for me.
so the school performances and things of that nature,
Yeah,
the
Yeah.
one-offs.
yeah, right.
We'll see what we can do for you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Leibold, any questions or comments from the public?
No, not at this time.
Thank you very much. Dr. Evans, superintendent update.
Thank you, Mr. Crumley. So I want to begin by recognizing a few individuals who are joining us tonight, and we have 2 new teachers in the audience. I want to recognize first Anthony Power, will be a new special education teacher in the high school. And secondly, David Milan, who joins us as a special ed. I also want to recognize 3 staff members who are receiving tenure tonight. Nicholas Piparato is a middle school music teacher. I don't think Mr. Piparato is here. Tiani Almond. Congratulations, Ms. Almanzar, on your tenure. Not least, not new to the district, but Principal of Cook Elementary School, Ginny Gallup. Congratulations. So a few other things in my report tonight. As most of you are aware, the New York State Education Department's Blue Ribbon Commission has released its recommendations on revisions to graduation requirements or graduation measures in the state of New York. These are merely, I don't say merely because it wasn't a small feat, but right now these are recommendations for the Board of Regents and the New York State Education Department to consider. So there are 12, high-level recommendations. I've included those in my report, and they are widely publicized. So right now we're just kind of processing the report and waiting to see what the Board of Regents elects to do with these recommendations. I do want to recognize Vice Chancellor Josephine Finn, Monticello's own, who was one of the co-chair people of that commission. So I reached out to Vice Chancellor Finn the other day and thanked her for the work that she and the committee did on this important work. One of our strategic plan goals is to enhance our community members' sense of feeling welcomed and heard in our schools, and also that there's a belief that our schools effectively collaborate with them. So previously, the board will recall that we surveyed parents and staff members around those issues. We also surveyed students around those issues. We'll continue to do so. But the group that we didn't really get a good handle on are community members who do not have children in our schools or who are not employed by the school district. So in working with Alla Breve, that's the same group that did the survey, we are setting up 2 focus group nights in December. One is on December 13th and the other is on December 14th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. each night. There'll be 2 different focus groups. So it's not a 2-night focus group. It's focus group A, focus group B. And we're going to be inviting community members, again, who do not have children in the district or do not have, or are not employed by the district, to get their feedback on ways that we can enhance our partnerships with the community. So in working with Alla Breve, this is what they've done in other districts. We will be mailing out postcards, either before Thanksgiving or just after Thanksgiving, soliciting that. Now, the only thing is everybody's going to get a postcard. You're all going to get a postcard because you're a postal box holder here. But we are really trying to focus in on those community partners and members who have no connection to the school other than they pay taxes, but they don't have children here. Okay, so that's what we're looking to hear from. I held my first superintendent's office hours on Monday of this week. We had some minor technical issues because it was our first show, but They were soon corrected, and hopefully we'll have a smoother session next week, or in 2 weeks. On November 28th is my next session. We've posted those online, and also I've shared those with the board in my report. And I do want to take a step back because there are a couple other people, or one other person here who's taking on a new role in the district, and I want to recognize him. That's Keith Petzinger, will be our new Director of Elementary Education. Petzinger was previously the Director of ELA, Social Studies and the Arts. As I mentioned before, we're changing around some of those job functions and having a Director of Elementary Ed and a Director of Secondary Ed, and Mr. Petzinger has opted for the Elementary Ed position. And though he's not here, Dr. Gary Furman, we have reached a contract extension with him to continue as interim high school principal through the remainder of the school year, which is June 30th. We will be posting for a full-time permanent replacement in January. We believe that a couple things. One, for stability of the building, we believe that it's good to have that continuity with Dr. Furman. But also we believe that the deepest applicant pool to be found typically is in that January, February timeframe. So we'll be capitalizing on that as well. And that is all that I have.
Thank you very much, Dr. Evans. Victoria?
One of the recommendations was a financial literacy education program. Do we have anything like that right now?
Yes, yeah, we do. We have the Academy. That's a good point. Yes, we have the Academy of Finance. We have courses that go along with the Academy of Finance, so that aligns with it. There is an increased push to educate every student on that. So right now, there's no regulation or requirement to do so, but we're anticipating one. We're kind of seeing this coming over the past several years.
I know one of the districts in Sullivan County requires a financial literacy class in order to graduate.
Okay.
Which, pretty cool. The question I have for you, thank you for the homeschooling numbers.
Yes.
Now, there's 112 that are being homeschooled in our district.
That sounds right.
Okay, so those, every single 112 students, the parents have submitted the IHIP. It's been approved and all quarterly grades have been submitted.
I can't speak for certainty around that. I would assume, though, that they've made the request and that an IHIP has been submitted. Whether or not that IHIP has actually been approved, I don't know. And I doubt that all of them would have had submitted a quarterly report because we just ended the first quarter now. So that's probably the weaker of the numbers.
So now we're following up, like I understand that it goes to you and then it goes to the building principals too.
Right.
So each building principal is following up to make sure these homeschoolers are submitting the correct documentation.
Yes.
And if it's not, then the next step will be taken.
Correct, but remember that at any point during a school year, a parent can request their child to be homeschooled, right?
Right.
So what could be in that data is someone who may have made a request at the end of October.
Right, no, I understand that, but I know majority of them tend to do it over the summer. And there's those that do come in and they have like 10 days and, well, I just want to make sure. Now, are we still legally responsible to make sure that this paperwork's done correctly?
We're required to check, we're required to follow up with them on the IHIP and the quarterly reports. And I do want, there is one other thing I neglected to mention. I attended the Rotary meeting with Mr. Crumley, and they made particular recognition of our high school Interact Club for the coat drive that was recently done. And overall, Monticello Rotary collected 260 coats, and 155 of them came from the Monticello High School Interact Club. So congratulations to the Interact Club, the students, and Mr. Maranzano, their advisor. So I included that report. That's it.
Ms. Jersey?
Just want to make sure I'm not losing it. Was there a presentation on here prior to?
There was.
Yeah, so we've tabled that for the December meeting.
Okay.
Yep.
Gross.
In lieu of the Interact advisor not being able to attend the food drive, is there somebody that's going to be able to take the place so the students have coverage of an adult from Monticello?
I believe there's gonna be students there at the, at the food, rink, but I can follow up. and find
Yeah,
out.
please.
I'm confused. Isn't it Albrecht involved somehow with the food drive?
I think these are two different things.
different things.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
So you're talking about Rotary's food drive over the
Correct.
weekend.
I know the Fallsburg Interact will be there with their advisor. There's a scheduling problem. So we need somebody to be there.
I will see, who will be representing us.
Thank you.
Any other questions for, Dr. Evans? Thank you very much, Dr. Evans. Moving on to Assistant Superintendent for Business update, Mrs. Baylor.
It's on, it's not working. I'll talk loud. This evening you have the budget and revenue status reports, claims audit report, and school lunch profit and loss for the month of September. You also have the student activity quarterly report for the period July through September for both the middle school and the high school. I'm asking the board to approve an agreement with Green Chimneys Children's Services. And the SRO agreement with the County of Sullivan. Also on my report tonight is the 24-25 budget calendar. Now, don't jump out of your seats with excitement. This is just for discussion. It's a draft. There's a couple of dates on there that I think we want to talk about tonight. One is the budget committee and scheduling a date to meet with the budget committee. We usually do that after the governor has put out their proposals and towards the end of January. So we can kind of think about date and time. Also, one other thing before we talk about April 2nd, our meeting date. There's a proposal for school budgets to have early mail-in voting. It hasn't been signed yet, but all of these dates might change if we have to allow for early mail-in voting. We have a date on the calendar, April 2nd, as a board meeting date, but that's during our spring break. So my proposal was to take the presentation that's going to be done on April 2nd and move it to include it with the presentation on March 21st. And then have the board adopt the budget on April 16th.
Is everybody okay with that? A bunch of heads going this way, so.
And we would also cancel that April 2nd meeting.
Cool.
So I'll bring the budget calendar forward for the board to approve at the December 7th meeting along with the long range financial.
Very much. Any questions, comments, concerns regarding? Sorry.
The high school treasurer's quarterly report. Where is the graduation committee? Where is that budget? Do we have a budget for that?
That's included in the general fund for the high school. This is just the student activities. So these are all the clubs.
Okay. And I have another question for you. I can't find it right now, but in one of the budgets, it had voids. It said voids. One was $19,000. Another was $203.50. And I'm trying to look for it right now. And of course, I can't find
In
it.
the
What-
warrant?
Huh?
In the warrant or in the,
DOY, is it? It might be beginning of the year.
Very,
I saw it earlier, but now I can't find it. I had to like, Williger had her name signed to it.
we'll probably just read a check.
Is that what that means?
we don't know what you're.
Find it later, you can just email me with whatever document and page number, and I can pass that along to administration. All right. Yes, Jen.
In the lunch budget, there in, I think it was August, there was a big equipment purchase. What was that?
So we purchased, purchased the steam kettles, we got some new ovens, some piece of equipment in the high school cafeteria or kitchen that I can't remember what they called. But yeah, we bought a bunch of equipment, but is there a like a long-term plan to replace equipment or something? Is this gonna be something that's gonna be happening to update throughout, or? So this was the result of, the fund balance being too high, and the state mandates you to spend it down. So we had to have a plan, so we had multiple things that we did. We had, contract settlement, we hired the cook manager, and then we purchased several pieces of equipment to spend down that excess fund balance. And things haven't been updated in. Yeah, I guess I know the things are not been updated sometime, and I didn't know if there's more to come, or if this is just for now, and we'll see how things go. Right now, we are looking at freezer space, because freezer space is very limited in all of our kitchens. So, we're working with, Steve Lewis to see if there's a location that has electric that we could have an exterior, like outdoor freezer unit that could hold a lot more than our small in kitchen freezers. So it makes it difficult for ordering and storing and all that.
Can you refresh my memory? Do we have set up with, speaking of budgets, when there is funds, when there are funds collected? Do we have a policy that is universal for every one of our staff in any building? That we have the district rules to live by when, like, let's say cash is involved in bringing in and then supplementing a budget? As far as like, I'm gonna have a fundraiser for X, Y, or Z. It has to be approved by an administrator. It has to be signed off on. The monies that are collected have to get deposited.
Yes.
And we have to have this, and that's blanket. That's what we already have in place as policy, right?
For district clubs.
For the
Student
district club.
clubs.
Okay.
Any other questions?
So when you talk about the net revenue and the expenditures on the lunch spreadsheet here, that has the total at the bottom in red, that would mean that that's our deficit, correct? So this doesn't take into account money that we have squirreled away somewhere. Is that correct? Or is this also taking into account? Because I remember we had a pretty high amount, and you're saying we spent some down to pay for some equipment. Is there still money somewhere?
Yeah, this does not take fund balance into account. This is just
Okay.
your revenue and expenditures for each.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Russo.
So I'm in the general fund right now. Where do I find what for graduation, what our budget is?
You won't see a separate line for it. It's part of the high school budget, so the detail is in the back end of WinCap. So these are summarized by function and object code. So there's every single budget code has a budget detail when they are developing the budget, that they list out several items within that budget code that rolls it all up into WinCap.
So if you remember at the graduation committee, when Katie said, no, Dr. Furman, that comes out of your budget.
Right.
It's a high school budget. It's not an actual, its own fund. It's actual, the whole high school budget that he has.
So the whole entire graduation does not have its own budget. It's the high school budget.
So
It's a line
It's a
item,
line
it's a line item in their budget. If you go back to when the schools were presenting us their budgets, when we were going through this process last year, if you go look at that high school proposed budget, there's a line item in there for graduation.
Or it might be across multiple
Yeah.
items, depending on, is it a supply or is it a contract service?
Yeah.
It could be between two different codes. So the rental of the tent, or if we're buying flowers and other things like that are supplies. So it'd be inside of the code. And then the rental of the tent and the chairs and the sound equipment, that's all a contractual item. because we're hiring somebody to do that for us. So overall,
Do we have a budget for graduation overall?
yeah, we spend about $20,000 a year.
And that includes the tent, that includes chairs.
Chairs, sound,
We find that to be too low.
You think it's too low?
I think it's too low.
and that's really based on what they've been charging us in the past.
And if we want to do different things, like if we want to have banners of our seniors.
So that's what the graduation committee informs the principal of. And if the principal believes that to be a legitimate use of the school's budget, then we'll coordinate with Ms. Bela to say, I want to move money from here and move it over to there to put more money towards graduation. That's what the committee's work is.
Okay, so I mean, that's something that can be done this year then, even if it's just,
If that's what the committee and Dr. Berman and Ms. Bela
And it's
believe.
inside the budget. You have to think of it, if you wanted to have skywriting. So I understand, but if you wanted to have skywriting, you would have to have the idea this year to get it in next year's budget. Because obviously that would be well above and beyond what the high school budget would allow for. You understand what I'm saying?
I'm just asking, I don't know if it's ever happened, but if they want to do it this year, there's no money anywhere to find it if it's a little over
Well,
budget.
Depends on how much, you know, I mean,
Okay.
we're not gonna, it's graduation and yeah, we wanna do what kind of student in the district.
Right.
So if the committee wants to do something and it's an additional, you know, $1,500, we're not gonna say no. Additional $20,000, then we have to talk.
If I remember Thursday correctly, we had issues in not last year, but the year before. When my son graduated, we actually, the board approved an additional spending because we needed a tent and we couldn't find it.
Yeah.
I remember, so it would be for the board for additional
That was also extenuating circumstances.
circumstances, but, you know.
So we're all good there?
Thank you, thank you.
All right, so thank you very much, Mrs. Bailey. Moving on to Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum, Mrs. Carlin.
Thank you, President Crumley. Good night, or good night. Good evening, everyone. This evening, I have three things to talk to you about. The first is the Drone Legends contract that you'll see for your approval tonight. That contract, just so that you're aware, covers curriculum and activities that our students do in their middle school tech classes. And it aligns with the standards that are for that particular program. I also have a memo for approving Christine Maraglia as a lead evaluator of teachers. She already received the training from her previous position. So she is all ready to start evaluating as soon as she starts on Monday. And then lastly, you'll see some additional private school agreements. You'll be seeing those probably on every board agenda for the next couple of meetings because they're starting to come in now. As our title funding is getting approved. And again, those are with our private schools that are given a portion of our title funding based on their student population. And this is what they're using that money for in order to provide services to their students. And that's all I have for you tonight.
Questions for Mrs. Carlin?
So on the private school contracts for Z Wash.
Business?
Yeah, business, there's one labeled Z Wash, I think.
It says the program fee is 25,200, but then in the comments, it says the 25,200 should be out of the private school's budget. So, well, I guess why do we approve it if the money is not from our budget?
Right, it's their budgeted amount of money that they're given from the federal funding based on the number of students they have. So they get a per student allocation.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so
This is their budget allotment, or yeah.
Probably
allocation.
better word to be allocated.
Yeah, okay, all right, that's fine. That makes sense, just as missing the word allocation, all right, good.
That's right.
I've got a question about the lead evaluator. I just want to know, so she's going to be working just in St. John's, or is she throughout the district with all the schools to, and I'm guessing, or maybe I should ask, is she evaluating the teachers. That's what she's gonna do.
Yeah, so all of our assistant principals, have a role in evaluating the teachers. Some of them share that responsibility with their building principals to do the lead evaluations. And, all of them have a role in doing the outside evaluation. So teachers receive evaluations from their lead evaluator, so their building administrator, and then they also receive evaluations from administrators not in their building. And so assistant principal, all of administrators, including myself, do those outside evaluations. So she's qualified and trained to do both.
Okay, so they get one of each
They
typically.
get more than one of each because we do mini observations.
So you do two major, was just curious. I'm not sure if I should be asking that, but just curious, you have like one announced and one announced, one unannounced kind of thing, and then you have many ones throughout the year.
So we do only minis, we fall under Marshall's rubric. And so depending on if it's a tenured teacher and untenured teacher, we do several minis and one outside mini from an outside evaluator.
Thank you. I have a question also about the Sweethearts Heroes from last week. It was last week's meeting, maybe 2 weeks ago. We talked about
I'm
it.
sorry, I didn't.
It was called Sweethearts.
Oh,
Heroes.
Sweethearts and Heroes, yes.
Yeah, Sweethearts and Heroes, okay. Do you have that scheduled for a specific date?
That's actually going to be at Rutherford Elementary right now, and I think Veronica Cicerano is here tonight. I don't know if she's scheduled it for a specific.
Schedule for December 6th and 7th.
Okay. And I think we're looking to include other buildings, correctly? Correct?
We are, the other elementary building, we tried to include the high school, but the scheduling was just too complicated. So we are inviting the other elementary school.
So, Chase and then Cook, you say others?
Yeah.
All three of them?
Yeah.
And then where will that be held?
At Rutherford Elementary.
Oh, it will be at Rutherford. Okay, thank you.
Where did I see him?
Yeah, I got a question. The drone legends, have we used them before? Has it been successful, the case with the drones? Do they build the drones? Do they get the materials?
They don't actually build a drone, they build models. And through the process of learning what drones do, building the model is how they're, that curriculum is being communicated.
So they don't actually fly, right?
I don't believe so. I think it's just an actual small model of, but they learn all about what drones do, what their purpose is, how they work through that process of building the model. I did include pieces of the curriculum.
Yeah. Okay, I saw that. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mrs. Carlin? Thank you very much. Mrs. Greco,
I would like to motion that we, consider action items T1 to T12 as a group.
I have a second on that by Mr. Groden. Any discussion? All in favor? So ordered. Mrs. Greco,
I'd like the motion that we approve action items T1 through T12.
seconded by Ms. Jersey. Any discussion?
I'd like to remove T3 to discuss. So out of that group,
Would like to discuss T3.
correct.
Would you like to amend your motion?
I'll provide a friendly motion to, discuss and approve, I guess, action items T1, T2, and then T4 through T12 as a group.
Second on that by Ms. Jersey. Any discussion? All in favor? So ordered. That means we just approved that, correct? No, that was just to take those as a particular group. So let's finish it off.
A motion that we approve action items T1, T2, and then T4 through T12.
A second on that, made by Mr. Groden. All, any discussion? All in favor? So ordered.
A motion that we bring forth for discussion, action item T3.
A second on that, made by Ms. Riley. Any discussion?
I'd like to discuss how the policy itself, at the very end, the last page, it references creating a safe, supportive, and affirming school environment for transgender and gender expansive students from 2023 legal update and best practices. It's found on the New York State Education Department site. I just want to clarify that even though it's referencing it, it doesn't necessarily mean, or it doesn't mean that we're going by all the practices that are within that 42-page document. But that's just why I'm bringing it up, because it's still referenced, because NISBA is suggesting that we put that in our policy and we reference it. So I'm just bringing up the fact that it's being referenced. And so I just want to clarify that being a reference document does not mean that we abide by what's in the document that's referenced.
Very well. Any other discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Got that information, Mrs. Leibel? Thank you very much. Moving on to correspondence. None at this time. Mrs. Leibel, any questions or comments from the public?
No.
Very well, motion to adjourn. Motion by Ms. Jersey, seconded by Ms. Holmes. Any discussion?
I just want to wish our wrestlers the best of luck tomorrow with their first weigh-in and
Yeah.
all that.
Very well.
I'd like to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah, yeah, thank you. Thank you.
All in favor? So ordered. If you do have any paperwork for government class, any board member can sign that for you.